wonderful it is to see everybody here today. What a treat. So good morning, everyone, our members, our new members, our guests, and those joining us virtually on Zoom, to the excitement of finally having an in-person meeting now that we are back to level 1 again. I don't think we've been on anything approaching level 1 since the beginning of the pandemic. Long may it last. Before we go on, can I please remind all of you to put your phones on silent so we won't disturb our speakers and other members. There is such joy in uniting together and trying to be able to bring normality back to our lives again, with South Africa hopefully being off the red list soon. Many members will be able to travel to see friends and family without the expense of a quarantine hotel or an unexpected and additional 2-week holiday in places like Albania and Croatia. Throughout this pandemic, there have obviously been many difficulties, as I can sadly attest to through personal experience. And I know that others have also had their own challenging accounts. These troubles have been magnified by COVID-19 because we haven't had the ability to easily be together with those we need during these times, whether they were a plane ride away or whether they were just around the corner. In a way that nobody could have predicted, this pandemic has highlighted how we need each other in our lives. It's our loving, authentic, and genuine relationships that ultimately give this life and give us meaning. This deep connection sustains us through our darkest hours, and it also brings us infinite joy in our happiest. How lucky then that we have this vehicle of the IWC to help facilitate these friendships. The theme for this year has been strength and community. And my goodness, did it turn out to be more prescient than any of us could have ever imagined. Being in an organization that encourages kindness while building friendships and also helping those who are less fortunate through our philanthropy is a gift. We receive these blessings of this gift, and because it encourages us, because it makes us stronger, we can then pass these blessings along to others. So it is with this hope of a more open and a better world that we welcome spring and all of the new beginnings that it offers. With the restrictions on international travel, many of you have been busy traveling throughout South Africa, only to be reminded what an incredible and amazingly beautiful country we live in when you're here. Those on safari have sent pictures of all the new baby rhinos and elephants, wild dogs and bokkies. The flowers on the West Coast have been amazing this year due to that large and very cold rainfall we've had. And I was very fortunate to be able to see pods of whales and their calves when I traveled to the Overberg 2 weeks ago to sing there. And even those who have stayed at home comfortably, lazy, cozily, are grateful for the beautiful sunshine and milder temperature that spring offers us, especially on a beautiful day like today. So this month, we celebrate Marine Awareness Month with our guest speaker, Leigh de Necker. And what an appropriate theme for us to bring awareness, because this pandemic makes us realize that our lives go beyond our personal spheres and that our oceans are a large part of it. Do you know that 70% of our Earth is made up of oceans, made up of water? So there have been several recently quite high-profile campaigns to stop plastic in our oceans. We know it damages wildlife, and ultimately it affects us as humans too. They say even the fish that we eat now contains microplastics because of it. Not a happy thought, but hopefully one that will make us more conscientious of how we handle our waste, and one that will also bring us more appreciation for the beauty and the benefits that our ocean brings us. So I look forward to what our speaker will share with us this month. Before I go, a little bit of housekeeping. Our annual general meeting will be held as usual in the Kelvin Grove Grill Room on Thursday, the 21st of October. Please diarize it. We'd love to have you there. Our AGM is an important meeting where we elect our new board for the 2022 year, and we announce our audited financials. These are important milestones for us to keep our nonprofit status. So yes, we hope we can see you there. And if you can't attend in person, we have already set up a Zoom link for it. You can find that in this month's newsletter. The AGM booklet with all the relevant information will also be uploaded on the members only section of our newly updated website. So you can see that before we have the meeting if you'd like to see the financials. And lastly, because we are at level 1, we will be having a November meeting and an end of year celebration this year. Guys, we can. We'll, of course, observe all COVID protocols, but it will be an exciting celebration where we can all be together. It will be held also as usual on the second Thursday. That will be the 11th of November, right here in the Kelvin Grove Ballroom. So we will have a morning filled with surprises, treats, entertainment, and fun. As Christine put it, it will be like an end of term celebration. So please stay tuned to your board, to your social media outlets such as Facebook and WhatsApp. So as we share more upcoming details, we hope that you'll be able to join us. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies. It is, as Amanda said, so wonderful to be back here at Kelvin, and a warm welcome to all of you, and also to those of you who are joining us on Zoom this morning. I'm just here to quickly talk about what's been happening with groups and so on, but I want to mention that the group leaders have been working very hard in very difficult circumstances to keep all the group activities going. And I'm very pleased to see that the calendar for October has got many activities and looks pretty full. So do please take a look at it at the back of the newsletter. I think there may be one on the notice board in the foyer. So one particular event I would like to mention is the Garden Club outing for October, which will be to the Avondale Garden in Durbanville. The IWC have been invited by Mrs. Ronelle Shuttleworth to tour her wonderful garden. Ronelle is the mother of Mark Shuttleworth, who I'm sure you know. He was the first citizen from an African nation to travel into space. The Shuttleworths bought the property in the year 2000, and Ronelle started the transformation of the massive gardens, which have over 8 acres under cultivation. October is the best month to actually see Avondale, so please take a look at the details on the notice board in the foyer and consider joining this tour. It is a very rare opportunity to see a spectacular private garden. Margaret Abbott is actually away this month, but Mignon Fricker, she's here, there she is, there's Mignon. Mignon will be in charge of all the sign-ups. So please make contact with her, and her details are on the notice board, as I said, in the foyer. As you can see, we're not actually using the group activity sign-up desks at Kelvin, but instead we're still going to ask people to email or WhatsApp the appropriate group leader in order to book a place. And again, the notice board is in the foyer where you can see what's coming up. And of course, the newsletter is available online. Please take a look at this. It's 40 pages, I think, this month, full of information, something to read, something to entertain you, and obviously all the information on what's happening this month. We've been talking about some very exciting new groups that will be happening in 2022. And please, if you do have any suggestions for a group activity that you think might appeal to our members, do let us know. Please contact me or Amanda or any of the board with any thoughts you have on something that might appeal. If you have read the newsletter, you will see that our new theatre group has had already 2 fantastic outings to the Cape Town City Ballet production of Carmen. And what a treat it was to go back to the theatre at long last. So a big thank you to Suzette Raymond, who kindly organised this for us, and Victoria Dickerson, who's also helping to run this new theatre group. There are more theatre outings actually being planned for the near future. I think we have 2 possibly planned for November and another one in December. So that'll be a great fun event to go along to. So please keep a lookout for that. We also have a new jazz group, thanks to Elena. And so please contact her if you're interested in jazz. Amanda has mentioned already to make a note in your diary for November the 11th, which is going to be our last general meeting of the year and is going to be our very fun get-together, our Christmas end-of-year celebration. Details to follow, but please put it in your diary now. And finally, I have to say a very sincere thank you to all the group leaders and area reps who have kept in touch with our members. They've made sure that we have felt connected during the strictest of lockdowns. These people are the backbone of our club, and they all volunteer their time and their energy to make our club so successful. We very, very much appreciate the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. They do research, they find venues, they make sure that all our outings are great fun. So we're very grateful for all that they do. And now I'm going to hand over to Vanessa, our treasurer, who's going to chat to us about fees next year. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm Vanessa Hofmeyer, your treasurer. Oh, it's lovely to be here and lovely to see everyone in person. It's been far too long. I couldn't find my badge this morning. I had no idea where to start looking for it because it's been such a long time. And fortunately, it hasn't rusted because it was right at the bottom of a very big pile. Fees for this year. So if you can recall, just to put it all in context, 2019, the fee was 620 Rand. Then 2020 happened and we have had a lot of restrictions. So we reduced the fee to 400 Rand last year, in line with the fact that all the activities were particularly restricted last year. So there was extra cash in the kitty so that we could subsidize the fees for this year. We still don't need to go back to 620. So we are still giving you a discounted rate, but it's now 500 Rand, not 400 Rand. So it is more than last year, but it is still a discount. So I do need to highlight that because next year, when you get your invoice, we're heading back to 620, 650, what will be an appropriate fee, hopefully because we are so busy and all the restrictions are gone away. So I do need you just to know that it is still a discounted rate. We are still subsidizing the fees slightly this year, but next year back to normal. I have also been asked if certain members pay different fees. Everybody pays the same fee, just so that there's no confusion there. Everybody pays 500 Rand this year, that's the fee. And the only difference is for new members. So if somebody does join in this next year, the once-off fee is 600. It has stayed 600 for as long as I can see on the different years. So it's a joining fee of 600 Rand, but a new member joining this year will pay the full fee of 620. It's only existing members that will have the discount. So in total, the amount will be 1,220 if you join this year. And then from then on, after that, just a normal fee. So there's a 600 once-off, and then there's a fee. So I know I'm quoting a whole lot of figures, but just to say your fee is 500 Rand. New members will still pay 620 plus the joining fee. Okay, our deadline is 31 December, just because once all the fees are in, we can just manage the club more efficiently and knowing that we have the cash that we need. So I will start sending little gentle reminders to nudge you, and they might not be quite so gentle after the 31st of December. I hope you don't mind. Okay, I think that's all that I needed to cover. Just the most important point is I do need you to understand just so that next year the fee will in all likelihood jump over back to the 600 odd figure. Okay, so we would have had 2 years of discount. And lastly, I did send out all the invoices this weekend. So if you haven't received an invoice, if you can please reach out. We have tried to match all the invoice email addresses to my list, to Victoria's list, to Janet's list, just to make sure that everything is in sync. And we basically are in sync. But if you didn't receive an invoice, if you can, please just let us know so that we can make sure we have the correct details on the database. All right, I'm going to have over to Victoria, who is our social media genius, if I may say so myself. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa. Just that's something to live up to. I have to perform now. I just want to ask people if they are having difficulty with logging into the website, please can you let me know either at the end of the meeting or with a quick email. So now, rather than when the newsletter goes up and you go, I can't log in, because the problem is because our events are still much reduced due to regulations and people's comfort. Things sell out incredibly quickly. And so I have had complaints that events are already sold out when they finally get round to being able to log in. So if they can try and log into the newsletter, try and download the newsletter. If you're having difficulties, it may be because we don't have the right email address for you. We have tried to, as Vanessa said, keep everything in sync. But if you can find out off the critical path, as we say in the oil industry, so we can avoid there being an issue when people are desperately trying to sign up for events. Group leaders go to a lot of effort to meet the deadline for submission for the newsletter, and Janet and Amanda work very hard on putting it together. So if you could please just get in there, log in. It's very simple. It's your email address and the same password it's always been, IWC uppercase, team lowercase. But if you're having difficulties, again, there may be an issue either with your software, with your phone, laptop, or it might just be something to do with the database. So just let me know and we can get it sorted, because we want everybody to read it because it's very exciting. Okay, and other than that, I just wanted to just say that the newsletter is keeping us all together. So I'm very proud of Amanda and Janet and all the hard work they do in putting it together. It is quite an ordeal, but we're kind of running a club and a magazine at the same time. It's quite an ordeal. But so speaking of Janet, I'm going to hand over to Janet, who's got a plethora of new members to introduce to you. It's very exciting. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Janet.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Hola, dear members. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Today, we have 8 new members with us. I would like to introduce you first, Karen Temlet. Good morning, Karen. Karen is from South Africa. She lives in Hout Bay. She is an early childhood development specialist. Karen ran her own play stimulation program for 20 years and has recently founded Funda Cunye, which means in Isicosa, learn together. Funda Cunye is a non-profit organization. Thank you very much and welcome. Our next member is Glynis Minnie Hart. Glynis is from South Africa. She's living in Simonstown. Glynis worked as a primary school teacher in Rustenburg High School here in Cape Town, but she moves to Namibia with her husband. She was a teacher in Swakopmund for children who parents worked in the rosin mining project. You know, in Namibia, you are learning in Afrikaans or in German, but she was an English teacher. Glynis has a United Nations class because she has children from all over the world. She owned also a company called Here For You in South Africa. Welcome, Glynis. Well, our next member is Mary Tomlinson. Mary Tomlinson is from USA, from Texas. She's living in the Atlantic seaboard. She worked as policy analyst in development, including the Urban Foundation, the Center for Policy Studies, the South African Banking Council, and Wits University. Welcome to the IWC. Our next member is Maureen Collins. Maureen Collins is from Ireland. She lives in Sunnydale on the West Coast. Maureen worked as a corporate in mining and chemical industries, owns a consulting practice for personal and leadership development with growth groups and individuals. Welcome to IWC. Yes, I would like to say welcome also to Lisa Bergoboy. Lisa lives in Munzenberg. She's from USA. And Lisa, she was an aerospace engineer. Welcome to IWC, Lisa. Yes, I would like to say also welcome to another engineer, Nikki Brandt. Nikki is from South Africa. She is living in Rondebosch. She studied engineer in the University of Cape Town. She has working as data analyst. Welcome to IWC, dear Nikki. Yes, and from Hout Bay, I would like to say welcome to Nori Siddiqui from UK. Nori is a natural health professional. She is also radio presenter and self-development coach. She founded her own online health company, specialist in collagen. Welcome to IWC. And our last member from Stellenbosch and from USA is Caroline Castellane. Caroline studied marketing and she worked for the Ford Motor Company. She's also a real estate broker now. Welcome to IWC. Well, I would like to say thank you to all members who bring your friends to the IWC. And also, I would like to tell you, stay in touch because next year and the next month, we will have around 6 or 7 new members. Thank you very much for your help with the new members. It's nice to see here your friends, you're bringing your friends. And now I would like to say, Anne Todd, he will say some words from our dear member, Renate Bleser. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm here. I have been asked to say a few words about our departed president from 2004, Renate Bleser, who I have to say was very instrumental in me being accepted by the club and facilitated me as a new member. So sadly, she recently passed away after becoming very frail in the last few years. She was born in Germany and arrived at Johannesburg with her husband and 3 young children when her husband was offered a job in South Africa for 5 years. 50 years later, the family was still here. They moved to Cape Town in 1992, and 10 years later, she sadly lost her husband. And that was when she became very involved with the club, which she loved passionately. Ultimately becoming president, she took on that task as well as any duty, all her other duties that she ever did with enthusiasm, humor, and organizational talent. I was lucky enough to be the recipient of many delicious dinners and lunches at her home in Constantia. Those of you who knew her well remember what a great cook she was. Renate participated in many groups such as the Do One By Yourself, before my time, and the Design Group, and she was well known and popular to all who knew her. Our Thursday meetings and the outings were the highlights of her month. Her love of and her commitment to the IWC was admirable. Her daughter, Bebel, is a member of the club, and she's with us today. Bebel, could you give us a little hand signal or stand up? She will be missed and fondly remembered by all who knew her. Rest in peace, Renate. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Anna Maria Deledone, and I am your philanthropic chair. It's good to see everybody. You are more beautiful than ever. As it is Marine Month, I thought I would dress appropriately. Clifton. White sand, Lucy, and the pearls were all dived by my dear Frank. And those who know can imagine how he dived. Can you imagine someone who has longingly looked at the sea but has never been able to get in the water because they are disabled. But thanks to your generous donations, beach wheelchairs with floating arms and large tires, that dream is close at hand. The wheelchair will be rented out, unfortunately at the moment only in Hermanus. And thank you for Lorraine Hewitt for suggesting it. And please, if you haven't, the box is over there. Our second charity, NSRI, need no introduction. We have seen over and over TV footage or amazing photographs of some of their daring rescues. We would like to congratulate the NSRI for winning 2 awards from the International Maritime Rescue Federation. First for innovation and technology, and then the International Maritime Rescue, the Vladimir Maksimov Lifetime Achievement Award to Patrick van Eysen of the Station 3 Table Bay. Well done and richly deserved. And as usual, the box is there. Please donate. To celebrate World Sight Day on the 14th of October, we are collecting readers, spectacles, and sunglasses, which you no longer need. People have already donated. If you have forgotten or still have at home, Specsavers also collect. In keeping with Maritime Month, please remember to cut the strings of moss so as to protect our wildlife, especially birds. Books for the book stand, don't forget. And don't forget bread tags, bottle tops, and Geraldine Berry will collect or I will collect. And always remember, every little bit helps. And I can find a home for anything you give me. And again, thank you very, very much to all our generous ladies. It is only appropriate for Marine Month to have a sort of water baby as a speaker. With COVID, I could not import a mermaid. I thought of coming, but I couldn't find 2 big seashells. So I managed to get the best next thing, a shark lady, who could be a mermaid herself, Leigh de Necker. Leigh has a Master of Science degree from UCT. Her research focused on the Fiji ecology of top predatory sharks in False Bay. As if studying sharks in the ocean was not enough, her hobbies include scuba diving, free diving. She tells me she can go down 15 feet. Open air marathon swimming. She also loves ultra distance mountain and trail running. And by the way, she just ran up the mountain before she came here. Leigh tells me she practically lives on the mountain. But what really fills her world are her 3 very old pincher dogs. Welcome, Leigh.
Okay, good morning, ladies. It is an absolute privilege for me to be here today, just hearing some of the stories and the backgrounds from a few people I spoke to before we started. Just incredible what you ladies have done and accomplished, and also such diverse interests. So really a privilege to share with you today one of my interests, my profession, and I hope you find it interesting. So my world revolves around sharks. And it's an interesting one, and not for everybody, but from a kid, I was terrified of them, absolutely terrified, wouldn't put a toe in the water, as I'm sure many of us have a similar kind of fear associated with sharks. We've seen Jaws, and that's unfortunately given them a bit of a bad rep. So I'd like to change that perception for you today and tell you about the wonderful world of sharks. So when we think shark, what's the first shark that comes to mind? The big, scary great white. That's what everybody thinks about when you hear shark. But they are in fact very, very, very diverse. We have over the entire world about 500 different species. And in South Africa alone, we are incredibly privileged to have 117 of those species found in our waters. And among all of these species, only about a handful of these sharks are considered harmful or dangerous to humans. The rest are all Some like the dwarf lantern shark, which can fit into your hand being fully grown. And that's about 20 centimeter animal, so smaller than a ruler. And then you have the really big ones like the whale shark, which can, which can reach a massive 12 meters on average. And they actually eat plankton. So it's amazing that to learn. And one of the key messages I want to leave with you today is that there is more than just the great white. We have such a diversity, all of them with their own unique characteristics and role in the ocean. Each of them plays an incredibly important role in the ocean. I'm going to tell you a little bit more later about how lethal it can be to us if we remove sharks from the ocean. And to touch on a bit more of the diversity, they occupy a wide range of habitats. So everything from the sandy bottoms, you'll have sharks like this nurse shark over here that'll pick out little crabs and things crawling around in the sand. And then we have pelagic open water sharks like a blue shark, which occupy that big, big blue open water and feed on any fish they can get their teeth into. We have the coral reef sharks, like this Caribbean reef shark. I was very privileged a few years ago to go to the Bahamas, where I spent some time in the water with Caribbean reef sharks. Incredibly important for our coral reef ecosystems. And then a little bit closer to home, we have the sharks that live in our kelp forests. Many of them are actually endemic to South Africa, meaning they are found nowhere else in the world. So making our waters just that extra special. And that is a broad-nosed seven-gill shark, one of the species that I did my master's degree research on. And then a little bit more of the extreme environments in the Arctic, up to about -1 degree Celsius, you find the Greenland shark. And then the six-gill shark, which can occur and be quite comfortable living at about 1 kilometer depth. So there are also some very, very interesting sharks that make the great white look like a teddy bear, like this goblin shark, for example. Very, very, very strange looking. And then we also have what we call a cookie cutter shark. Their mouths are shaped just like a cookie cutter. And what they do is, you can see in that picture, the shark above it has a bit of a hole in it. And what they do is they kind of go like a cookie cutter would, and they pierce holes out of their prey. So all very unique, very different, very, very diverse, but in my eyes, all beautiful nonetheless. So sharks are really prehistoric animals. I mean, they date back to dinosaur times, being approximately 450 million years old. They have survived 5 mass extinctions. So how do they do it? How have they managed to survive on this planet that is taken out and wiped out many, many creatures, but they've stuck around? So I'm going to go a bit into their anatomy. And when you think of the anatomy of the shark, again, what's the first thing that comes to mind? The teeth, of course. So shark teeth, as diverse as the sharks are, so are their teeth, and it fits their diet, which does not include humans. It's not the last time I'm going to say that today. So those teeth over there, can anyone guess what shark that would belong to? No. Okay, I'm going to tell you. It is a tiger shark tooth. You see, it's got very, very serrated edges. So serrations generally need to do some cutting. And the favorite thing for them to eat, to the detriment of many of my colleagues that work with these guys, are sea turtles. So yeah, just as much as it's difficult to see the lion eat the little bokkie, these guys need to eat to survive too, and the tiger sharks love turtles. They're also considered the dustbins of the shark world. They have found very interesting things in tiger sharks' bellies, one of them being a car's license plate, bits and pieces of steel and metal, and I think they even found like a pedal of a car, bucks' legs. So no humans, but yeah, they really do like to chomp at whatever they can find. This tooth, Anybody get an idea? There we go. Okay, that is the great white shark tooth. And great whites, one of their favorite preys are, again, cute guys, Cape fur seals. Yeah, so just to give you an idea of the teeth and how they adapt, some other sharks, like the whale shark, has very similar to a whale would have to filter through the plankton. And then you have some smaller sharks that have more plates as teeth that they use for crushing little crabs and things that they would eat. The skin of a shark is very, very interesting. If you look at a shark, it doesn't look like it has any scales as a fish would, but they do. Their scales are very, very, very tiny and actually made of the exact same material that their teeth are made of. So they're known as dermal denticles. So essentially, a shark's body is covered in an armor of teeth. Very, very, so that's a microscopic image. And this allows them to be incredibly streamlined. So sharks move like torpedoes through the water. And we've actually, as humans, taken this concept of shark skin and created swimming costumes out of it that Olympic swimmers have used. And this was actually banned because it was found to give them such a strong advantage that it wasn't fair for swimmers that didn't have them. So it just goes to show that nature is the perfect engineer. All of our best ideas that we draw are often from nature. So all the more reason to protect it. And then a few other things as to how sharks get around and how they live out in that big blue. Camouflage is a big one. So that guy at the top that's bitten off more than he can chew is known as a puff adder shy shark. So puff adder with that skin color, very well camouflaged for them living in the sandy bottom. That is one of our endemic species to our southern African waters. And they're small little guys like this, known as shy sharks. And below that, we have a ragged-toothed shark. Those are two of my babies that I look after at the aquarium. And counter shading, they have this dark top and the light underbelly. And that's if something's swimming below them and they look up, they see that light belly. The sunlight from the top, it looks almost invisible. And the same having the light behind you, looking down on that dark surface. Really, really amazing for their camouflage. And then another interesting thing about a shark is their skeleton. So skeleton of a shark is made entirely of cartilage. They don't have bone like we do. They are made entirely of cartilage. So think of your nose or your ears. They don't have a single bone as we do in their body. And this is two main advantages for them. For one, it allows them to be incredibly flexible. So that is a pajama shark who has the ability to curl up into a little donut. So the cutest little sharks you'll ever meet. I'm going to show you a video of them later. But when they get scared or threatened or intimidated, they curl up into their little donut and kind of put their tail fin over their eyes and hide. But yeah, as cute as that is, the point was to show you how flexible they are. And another thing about a cartilage skeleton is it allows them to maintain their buoyancy. So they don't have swim bladders like fish do, where they can take in air. Instead, their cartilage skeleton helps them have a little bit more buoyancy. On the buoyancy, they also have a very, very big liver. So 2/3 of a shark's body weight is actually their liver. So massive, massive livers, and that allows them to, because they're so oily, also gives them that buoyancy. And shark senses are a fascinating one. So they've got what we do. We've got the sight. However, to their disadvantage, their eyes are on the sides of their head. So they have a bit of a blind spot here. So sharks are notorious for bumping into things because they can't see here. So one thing is surfboards, as much as it's not great, surfers are often not bitten, but just knocked off their surfboards because they swim into things. I look at my friends at the aquarium constantly swimming into the sides, into the walls, into us. So it is a bit of a disadvantage, but their eyesight, depending on the species, can be very, very good. Sense of smell in a shark is probably one of the senses they rely on mostly. So their sense of smell is 1,000 times better than ours. So I wouldn't want to be able to smell a fart if I were a shark, because it would be quite potent. But yes, you'll see on that picture, you can see the little nostrils, or nares, they call them. They also do have ears. You can't see them, but at the back of their heads, this tiny little hole that does allow them to hear. So yes, they've got what we do. And just an interesting fact, while I have this image up, that picture of the great white, if you can see it, they actually have blue eyes. So when you look at a great white, you see this black, scary hole. It's not, they actually have the most beautiful blue eyes. So just to, it's pretty. So yes, they've got what we do, but they also have a few what I consider to be superpower senses. So things that we don't have and what we would never be able to understand. So the lateral line, it runs all along the length of the shark. Fish have it too. You'll often see fish have that line that just runs across the length of their body. And that sensory system called the lateral line allows them to pick up on vibrations in the water. So if I can explain it to you, it's almost like being able to, if I turn around and I don't know you're there, but I can feel each and every single one of you there. I can feel it in that lateral line. Just being able to be so aware of your environment that you don't need to see, smell, or hear it, but you can feel it. So I find that to be really cool and not something we could ever really fathom. And then they've also got a sensory system. It's called the ampullae of Lorenzini. So on that picture, you can see there's little paws all along that shark's nose. I don't know if you can see it too well in that image, but the little paws peppered all along its nose and around the side of the face. And each of those paws is filled with an electric conductive gel. And that allows them to pick up on any electric signals in the water. So their ability to electroreceptor, again, helps them hunt, helps them find their prey, but also helps them have an awareness of potential predators. So the last superpower they have, and there was no real picture to define it, but they can, what we call magnetoreception. They have the ability to use the Earth's core or magnetic field to navigate. So it's essentially a built-in GPS. I don't know about you, but I get lost with a GPS. So this to me is just absolutely mind-blowing that you can use various magnetic fields of the Earth and find your way. So yeah, and then obviously to be able to survive, you need to be able to reproduce. And sharks have well, I'll first tell you a little bit about the mating. I was going to show a video, but didn't think it would be too appropriate, but it's also not the greatest thing to see. Sharks, mating is very violent. So the males bite onto the females. You can see this poor bronze whaler shark. You can see the nasty scarring. That's a female that's recently just been mated with. The males bite onto them and like wrap around them when they reproduce. And a male has what we call claspers, which are two, like my colleague says, two totties. He says it at all our presentations for the kids and everything at the aquarium, but it's kind of stuck. And they use one of them that they insert into the female, but they have to really bite onto her to get it right. So I hope evolution works that out a little bit better for the female's sake. But we've got a couple of million years before that happens. Then our little Parfettish sharks. So to give you an idea of the size of that baby, you can see there's a nut in that picture. So I think I've got a laser here that I can show you. I just have to show you that they are adorable. We're going to press the right one. So that's a nut there, normal size nut. That's the size of the shark. So it would be smaller than your baby finger. They are incredibly cute. So yeah, not so big and scary. But these sharks are egg laying. So they are what we call oviparous is the fancy term for it. And then we've also got sharks that certain species like us that give birth to live young. And then very interestingly, and most species are what we call ovoviviparous, which is an in-between. So the babies develop inside and feed off the yolk and are born live. So amazing that they've got all these different, well, depending on the species, depends on the strategy they use to reproduce. How do we find all of this out? How do we know all of this? And it's through research. Shark research can be quite controversial, as any kind of research, because it's also more challenging than your terrestrial research. Because if you want to follow a lion and see what it's doing, you can follow it because we're on land. With a shark, not so easy to just follow them and see what they're doing. So tagging sharks is one of the things that we do. This is one of the tags I don't really like. They're satellite tags, and they're a little bit bulky and big, but they do provide us with the best data, is that you can use every time that tag breaks the surface, you get a satellite location as to where that shark is. We also have in the previous image, internal small acoustic tags that we can insert into their bellies. We have a vet on board for every single procedure. And with the data we've gained from where they're moving for long periods of time, we do know that they are okay. And then before we release a shark, that was in the Bahamas, we had just tagged a tiger shark, and I was just holding on to him before we let her swim away. And yeah, there's so much we can do with research. There's so much we can learn and find out. And we need to. Why is research important? Because the only way to better understand an animal is to learn more about them. And the more we know about them, the better we can conserve and protect them. Because you can't go to, as a researcher, you want to say, okay, I found this out about this shark. They're in trouble. They need help. They need protection. And if they're like, well, we need the data to prove it. So white sharks are protected in our waters and in many parts of the world. South Africa was the first country in the world to protect the great white shark, which is incredible. So it just goes to show how good a lot of the research is that people are doing to help these animals. Why do the research? Why should we care? Why does it matter what happens to these so-called horrible beasts that just eat people? So sharks, because they are so diverse, they all hold different parts in the food chain, but I'm going to focus on the sharks that are at the top of the food chain. So like your great whites, your tiger sharks, bull sharks, they essentially control that entire food web. So if you remove sharks from that food web, their prey, so let's say seals, for example, start to increase in numbers. What do seals eat? Seals eat fish. So there's more pressure on the fish because there's nothing controlling the seal population. What do we eat from the sea? Fish. So now us and the seals are competing for that fish. There goes our food source. There goes the seal's food source. Seals die. We don't have a food source. So you need that top predator as a regulator to manage that entire system. And beyond that, I mean, that cascades even further down, right into seagrasses and algae and planktons. Phytoplankton produces the majority of the oxygen that we breathe. So essentially, not only by taking sharks out do we remove a possible food source for us, but we also are messing with the system that provides the very air that we breathe. So I'm sure when you came here today, you didn't expect to hear that sharks are crucial for our survival, but they are. That's the fact, that's the reality. So we do need to protect them, we do need to help them. Sharks in captivity, again, another very controversial thing. And if you had spoken to me when I was 15 years old, I would have said, aquariums are bad. Sharks should all be free and swimming wild. Yes, in the perfect world. In the perfect world, we'd leave everything untouched and just let it be. But because we humans are on this planet, we need to teach humans. And one of the best ways to educate people on the ocean is through an aquarium. So I'm going to play a little video for you and just tell you a little, can I play this? How do I play it? Oh, there we go. Okay. Got it, click on it. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the work I do there. So I look after all the sharks, and one of the species we look after is the ragged-tooth shark, which you may all be quite familiar with. They look big and scary, but I consider them the Labradors of the shark world. They're capable of doing damage, but they don't seem to know it. And the primary thing for us is their health. So every single day we're monitoring their behavior, making sure they're well fed. Every aspect of their health needs to be taken into consideration. And obviously employing a biologist who knows sharks is imperative, because we want to give them an environment in captivity that's as close as possible to what they'd have in the wild. So that's a lot of what I do. In this video, I'll show you how we feed our ragged-tooth sharks. You'll see in this corner here, I'm going to play the video shortly. Sorry, I'm going to point to that soon, but there's a black and white stick there. So there's two divers. That's me and a friend. That black and white stick, and then there's a wooden stick. So if you can see there, that's the black and white stick that I'm holding, and then I'm holding a wooden stick. So the wooden stick is to feed the sharks. So on the edge of that wooden stick, we have a nice big piece of hake. And then the black and white stick we use as just a safety stick. So to highlight just how intelligent these animals actually are, is that black and white stick they've associated with something negative. So when we feed them, we want them to come low down on the sand at the bottom so we can feed them. If they approach us high up in the water or at any angle like this, we use the black and white stick and we just nudge them away. The reason we do this is to make the feeding comfortable for both us as the divers, as well as for the sharks. Because if they're coming in from all different angles and it gets a little bit of a frenzy, it's not great for anybody involved. So it takes, when we get a new shark, it probably takes about 2 or 3 dives, and they already know. Black and white stick, if it comes towards me, I move. Feeding stick, I eat. So we got a new shark in this exhibit called Val. She was caught on Valentine's Day. She's very sweet. They all have their personalities, but Val is taking a little bit longer than usual to learn about this whole thing. So you'll see I use that black and white stick, and I just gently nudge her down. And as soon as she's low down enough, I feed her the fish. You'll see a few other sharks coming in very nicely, and then 2 of them, they get a little bit close together and they get a fright of each other. So like I said, the shark doesn't know it's a shark. I'll play that for you. So there you can see I'm gently just nudging Val downwards with the stick. You can see the other 2 sharks coming in for the piece of fish. And then they get a fright from each other. But all 3 of them had something to eat. So yeah, that's just a little bit of the kind of thing we do there. But to go back to why an aquarium is important, I was in the water yesterday in the shark tank, and it's school holidays. So there's kids outside all over the place. And to be on that side and just see a kid's face and their intrigue at you and what you're doing and the sharks. And I mean, this little boy's face just lit up and smiling. And even the adults, even the moms and dads and grannies and grandpas, you can see the smiles behind the mask. You know, it's really quite special. When I was privileged as a child to have the opportunity to scuba dive from when I was 16 years old. And that was what inspired, why I became what I became, is because I got put in the water with sharks and I needed to know more. Most people won't have that opportunity. They won't get to see the big blue down there and what's down there. And I was inspired to conserve it when I saw it. An aquarium brings that to people who don't have that opportunity to get into the sea. So having those little kids from all walks of life, you know, you have people that can't afford to do these things, people that are terrified to get into the water. So you bring that to them. So we look at all of our animals as ambassadors for their species. So to say, look, this is what we have. We need to protect it and explain to them why. So it's an incredible place to work, to not only have the privilege of working with those animals and caring for them, but being able to just share with people what we have in our waters and then inspiring action for that well-being of our ocean. wrong one. And another thing, it does allow you the opportunity to rescue animals and release them. So our sharks are all released. We don't keep them indefinitely. We only keep female sharks because women are better. No, as I mentioned, the mating is not great to see. So, and also it's not really ethical if you have that male, the female has no space to get away. So to have a male shark in there with her where she doesn't have the space to move, so everything we do, we look at from an ethical point of view. So we don't keep the boys, they don't know how to behave themselves. We only have female sharks. And when they start showing signs of being sexually mature, we release them. So we tag them and we release them. And from the research we have, because a lot of the people are worried, well, if they've been in captivity and been fed by you for so long, how do they survive in the wild? So we've researched that and we've tagged, and years later, we've picked up our animals moving exactly where the wild populations are going. So an animal like a shark, the instinct is so strong within them. They don't have any parental care. So when a shark's born, whether it's out of an egg or straight out of the mom, or that number 3 that I told you about, they are on their own. There's no mom telling you what to do, where to go, how to hunt. You know what to do. You're just born with that. And they never lose that. So even after being in captivity for 3 to 5 years, which is generally how long we keep them, they go on to do what they need to do to survive. And again, this is why they've survived 5 mass extinctions. So yeah, rescuing and releasing is one of them. We do 2 of the sharks I have in my tank, Blue and Charlie. They were confiscated from Cape Town International Airport. There was a guy from the Netherlands who was catching them illegally and shipping them off overseas for people that just wanted to keep a shark in their tank in the house. So those animals wouldn't survive a day. They wouldn't. So this was intercepted, thank goodness, and the sharks were brought over to us. And this is just a video of me releasing one of them. It honestly, as much as I love working with them in the aquarium and with the people, this is my favorite part, being able to send them back home. So I'll just show you a little video of me doing that. The Velcro on my wetsuit doesn't work very well, so excuse the naked shoulder. This is a smallish ragged-tooth shark that we released off Stillby. So she's got an internal acoustic tag fitted on her, and she's also got an external tag. So we just, because the way we transport them is we've got a big holding tank that we put on the back of a big 2-ton truck. And in there we've got water and just a little bit of anesthetic just to keep them calm, and enough oxygen and so on. And then we drive them to wherever we need them to go. So we've got a big truck, and then at the back, shark in transit. You can imagine the reactions, people on the road, probably the cause of 1 or 2 accidents. But yeah, so I just hold her to make sure if I can feel she's swimming, she's strong enough to swim on her own, then off she goes. So let's talk a little about sharks and humans. I'm sure many of you have a lot of questions, and I get the questions all the time, why do sharks attack humans? Why do sharks eat people? Sharks don't eat people. We are not part of their food source. And I'm sure you've heard with a lot of the attacks that have happened, it's usually an arm or a leg. You very rarely hear of a person being fully consumed by a shark. Now, I've worked with great white sharks. I've seen them hunt. I spoke to a lady earlier who said she's been on a great white diving boat and seen that shark hunting behavior. If a great white wanted to eat you, it would. We wouldn't be able to go set a toe at Muizenberg Beach and swim if they were out there to hunt us. So just to put that into a little bit more perspective, great white sharks hunt at Seal Island, which is about 6 kilometers from Strandfontein Beach, or a little bit further from Muizenberg Beach. I don't know if you're all a little familiar with Muizenberg Beach. There have been 1 or 2 shark attacks there. But working at Seal Island, which is for a shark swimming 6 to 7 kilometers, isn't far. What do you think is more difficult for a shark to eat or to catch? A seal or a human. I can tell you that seals are a lot quicker than you are in the water. And the sharks only come there in winter to hunt the seals, because that's when the seal pups are learning to swim, because it's too difficult for a shark to catch an adult seal. So they focus on certain times of the year where they can get the pups who are naive to predators. Why don't they just hang out at Muizenberg Beach and snack on humans all day? I mean, it's a lot. It would be the easiest thing in the world to just hang out at Muizenberg, snack on surfers, easy prey. There's no ways they're getting away from you. And, depending on the person, you might have a pretty decent meal, maybe a bit of heartburn later. But they don't do that. Certain times of year, they go to a certain place where they have to really work hard to catch the food. So we are not part of their diet. We really are not part of their diet. They are, however, very curious predators. So that picture there is of a great white having a look at a seal. It's like a piece of carpet, basically. I have seen great white sharks breach, come fully out of the water at wooden planks, even the tiny cigarette box that was floating in the water, a shark breached at. So their curiosity, and unfortunately, because they're equipped with those toofies of theirs, they are equipped to do a lot of damage. And sometimes that is fatal to humans, but people die from blood loss, not because they were eaten. And it's an arm or a leg here and there. And it's unfortunate and it's horrible because people do lose their lives. But to put it into perspective, approximately 10 fatal shark attacks every year. Okay, that varies. Guess how many sharks people kill every year? Up to 100 million sharks are killed by people every year. So this is through methods, there are actually fisheries which target sharks for their meat. We have a fishery in South Africa that catches smoothhound sharks and another species called soupfin shark. The soupfin shark is a critically endangered species. Their meat is shipped off for a specific market in Australia. Australia has fished out their soupfin and smoothhound shark population, that it's now illegal to catch it in Australia. So they've created a market here to catch out ours, to be sent to Australia. So these guys are in trouble. A lot of species are really, really in trouble. And overfishing is a big one. And bycatch as well. Your tuna and swordfish fishery. In their long lines, they often catch sharks, which they don't use. I mean, it's one thing to use it, but to have it on your hook and you don't need it because you want tuna instead and just throw it overboard. It's a harsh reality, and I can show you horror story videos, but I'm not going to do that today. I'd like to show you the more beautiful side of sharks, but you do also need to be aware of the realities that they face in the ocean. And then there's the shark fin trade, I'm sure many of you have heard of before, where in some of the Eastern Asian cultures, it's a delicacy to have shark fin soup, particularly at your high-end weddings and with the important people, they like to eat shark fin soup. It has absolutely no taste, apparently. It's just it's a delicacy. And it's actually got a very high mercury content. So it's going to kill you before it's going to do you any good. Because again, there was an argument for culture and medicinal purposes. So they researched it and it's going to kill you if you eat too much of it. So yeah. And then, again, plastic pollution, as you mentioned earlier, it affects the sharks too. It affects all our marine life. From discarded fishing gear, ghost fishing, catching animals, to them consuming it. So the question you got to ask is, who is the real monster? I wanted to come here today to change your perception on sharks and to give you an idea of how diverse and beautiful they are and how in trouble they are and why. But how can you help? What can we do to make a difference? There's no use me telling you, oh, they're in trouble. What are we going to do? You know, there are ways we can help. And the biggest way is to make sure that your seafood is sustainably sourced. So just be more aware of what you're eating, because there are certain seafoods that are sustainably caught. And there's actually a really nice app that you can download. So the World Wildlife Fund have put together with SASSI, which is the Southern African Sustainable Seafood Initiative. So they've got this system on it. It's a robot, so green, yellow, and red. So if you go to a restaurant and you say you'd like to order the fish, the catch of the day, and they tell you it's red Roman, you can go onto that app, type in red Roman, it'll tell you, boom, red list, don't eat it. Or you can go to the app and you say you'd like hake, green list, you can eat it. So just be more aware of where it's coming from and whether or not that species is in trouble or not. You can go onto their website, www.sassi.co.za, or you just go into your app, and there's a nice app that you can download. So I do encourage it. Yeah, and then again, just with the plastic pollution, I think we've all received this message many times, but there's so many reusable alternatives to our plastic bottles, our shopping bags, even your face masks. There's ones that you can wash and reuse. Don't keep buying I don't mean to make anybody feel bad right now who's sitting here with one, but just little things that you can do every day, and recycle. So when you are using a plastic, make the effort and just have it recycled. It's little things that each one of us can do every day. It's one less plastic bottle in the ocean for a turtle to eat, one less mask that a bird can get its neck wrapped up in. So we'll be a little bit more aware of what we're doing. So then the last thing I'd like to just tell you a little bit about, and I've touched on bits and pieces, is my journey with sharks. And it's been a really interesting one because, as I said, I was terrified. I mean, as a kid, I used to have nightmares that I'd have to go sleep by my mom because of sharks. And my parents were both avid scuba divers, and they really wanted me to scuba dive with them. I was like, absolutely not, because the sharks are going to eat me. And I grew up in Joburg, which is inland and not too exciting. You got out the first chance I could. And my mom eventually said to me, you need to get over this now. And convinced me to do a scuba diving course. And ultimately I did my first dive with sharks, with bull sharks. So I was like, that's it, the woman's trying to get rid of me. So I remember sitting on that boat that day. I was 16 years old. That seems like a while ago now. And you roll over backwards into the water and the skipper counts down 3, 2, 1. And now there's bull sharks behind you. I'm like, are these people on a pill that I didn't get, or what is going on here? And I rolled over backwards and landed in the water, got down there, and these bull sharks are very, very curious. And you know what? They come and they check you out. But it was a moment that changed my life. I mean, I was going to go do a corporate job because that's what you're supposed to do, and that's what everybody tells you to do. And I'm sure it would have been fine. But in that moment, when I was in that water and I had bull sharks all around me, my life changed in an instant because I realized it didn't want to hurt me. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, and it didn't want to hurt me. Why? I've been told my whole life that sharks eat people. So then I decided to study them. And that's taken me on a journey where I've dived in Cape Town with the blue sharks offshore. Funny little guys, those, but yeah, that's a big blue. I mean, the bottom of the sea is 2 kilometers down, and you just have these magical blue sharks. They're like a metallic blue color, and the edge of their fins are like silver. It's like some mystical world, just this magic. I got an incredible opportunity to go to the USA and dive with everything from tiger sharks to lemon sharks, and then ultimately the Bahamas, where I dived with great hammerhead sharks. Another bizarre species, but really beautiful. And then I ended up at the aquarium, and that's a little spotted gully shark that I was feeding, and always try sneak in a cuddle when I can. Not to don't do that at home or when you see a shark. And then the two species that I did my master's research on, the great white shark and the broad-nosed seven-gill in our waters. We're very privileged in South Africa with our marine life. We really are the few parts of the world that have the diversity that we do. So we should be ambassadors for our oceans, for our country, and share with people how diverse and how beautiful it is. Encourage people to go snorkeling, to go swimming. I myself am an open water swimmer, and again, 2 years ago, I would have never gone swimming in False Bay, and now I've done all kinds of really, really adventurous, wonderful swims, and still got all my hands and toes. And then just to finish off, I'd like to share with you one of my most incredible experiences I've had with sharks, which is actually in the aquarium with those little pajama sharks, those little donut ones. The one day I was just in the tank busy cleaning up, and I had 6 pajama sharks in this tank. And I was just humming. I was just humming away to myself, singing and cleaning as you do. And the one little one kept on bumping into me. I was like, come on, dude, I'm trying to vacuum your house. Stop it. And he carried on bumping into me. And then I realized that the singing or the humming was it was a vibration to him. So he was curious to it. So that one highlights that amazing sensory system. It also highlights the curiosity. I mean, I'm bigger than the shark is. And he's just, what is that? Can I eat it? No, aggressive, just very curious. And another thing about them is they are just so individual differences. So you can look at a species and generalize and say great whites do X, pajama sharks do Y. You can do that to a point. But with these, I've got 6 sharks in that tank. 4 of them couldn't be bothered with me unless I've got food for them. These 2, food or no food, they are in my face the whole time. And they almost want, I'm cautious of using the word affection, but I'll let you watch the video without further ado, and you can tell me, you can see what you think. Vicious beast. How sweet is that little face, though? They just keep coming back. It is so adorable. No wonder you're jealous. So yeah, I mean, while that finishes off, I'll sign off too. I hope I've given you a little bit of more of an idea about the world of sharks, what they're capable of and what they do physically. Also highlight a bit of the sad parts, that they are in trouble, what we can do to make a difference, but also just change your perceptions of them and realize that there's more to the world of sharks than just the great white. And yeah, with that, thank you for having me. And I really hope that you've enjoyed this. I'll leave the floor open for any questions. If there's anything anybody would like to ask, any questions I haven't answered. Yes.
What is the average lifespan of, let's say, great white?
Very good question. So again, with that diversity of sharks, the lifespans are very variable. So a ragged-toothed shark, for example, which funny enough is quite closely related to a great white, has a lifespan of about 35 years, whereas great whites, they estimate, could live up to double that, 70. While we're on age, I would actually like to ask you a question. And as a reward, Whoever can get as close as possible to the answer, I will give 2 complimentary tickets to come visit the aquarium. Okay, are you ready? So on age, what do you think the age is of the oldest living shark? So I'll tell you what the shark is. The Greenland shark, that one I told you is in the Arctic, in the very, very cold waters. How old do you think a Greenland shark can get? 150 is the closest so far.
200.
You're correct. 400 exactly. Well done. Amazing. Yes, so a Greenland shark, it's a recent bit of information they found that they can live up to 400 years. So I will come find you later and I'll come. Okay. There is speculation that living in the colder environment does have something to do with it, but nobody really knows. And this is the thing, as a scientist, as a researcher, you go into something with a million questions, and by the time you've done your research project, you have more questions than answers. And in some ways, it's frustrating, but it's also just the beauty of the world we live in. Some things are just meant to be a mystery, you know. We're not always going to have all the answers, and we're not always going to know everything. So, yeah, unfortunately, I can't fully answer your question as to why. But one of the theories is just that colder environment does play a part. Well, that's why I started. That's why I started. Hope it preserves.
Leigh, I just wanted to ask you, what did the sharks look like in prehistoric times?
What did they look like in prehistoric times?
The same? Have they changed in the time of the dinosaurs?
So some of the most prehistoric sharks are actually, I can actually go back and show you. He's right there, that guy. Smiley dinosaur over there, the broad-nosed 7-gill shark. Again, we find them in our waters. Fascinating animals. They actually, just a fun fact on them, one of the things I found in my master's research is they eat more seal than a great white does. Their diet, a larger part of their diet is seal than a great white. So don't let that deceptive toothless smile fool you when those gums are pulled back.
Ask question, repeat that question. What do you want to ask?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so it would probably look more or less like that, less torpedo-shaped and intimidating like a great white, and more, deceptive, toothy smiles. Okay, I don't want to. Okay, I'm going to start in the front and move back. I think that would be the easiest. Yeah.
I wanted to know something. I've been doing when I was young, of course, a lot of underwater diving. But something that I don't understand, if the shark doesn't damage the human being or doesn't eat the human being, why until now, in all the research, they didn't find a system or something that we can apply to our body to make the shark maybe circulate around us but not attack us?
That's a very good question. So the question is, why have we not developed some kind of shark deterrent so that we can swim safely and not have the concern of shark attacks? And people have tried. So there are actually shark repellents. There's something called a shark shield that you can put around your ankle. And the theory behind it is that it emits an electric pulse that interferes with that electroreception of the shark to a point that it's very uncomfortable for them, almost overwhelms their sensory system and deters them. So they are available. The effectiveness thereof is still to be tested, but I don't know of anybody with a shark shield that's had an encounter. So yeah, and I mean they do test them in a controlled environment, so they are around. Nothing that is 100% foolproof, but yes.
There was an old saying that you could throw white plates
About you?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And that would have created the terror.
Okay.
For that.
No, look, there are a lot of theories, but I think what holds the most weight at the moment is the shark shields. Sorry, there's a lady at the back who has been trying to get my attention for a while. I'm gonna, yes.
What I wanted to ask from a legal point of view, particularly when it comes to marine fishing, I know there's the territorial zone and the equatorial zone, high water mark, low water mark. From a legal point of view, are the sharks around the South African coastline being fished illegally by other countries without permits?
That is a very, very good question. So I don't know if everybody heard, but just to repeat the question, it was about fisheries in South Africa and the zones where fishing is allowed and not allowed. Is it still happening, and how much of it is illegal? And sadly, a fair amount of it does still occur illegally. And the problem is largely, as with most things in the country, is corruption. Is the laws are in place. They are there. The protected species, they are protected. There are fishing limits and fishing zones, and all of these things do exist. But money and corruption override it very often, which is very sad, because we are losing very, very critical key species to that. In South Africa, though, we do have marine protected areas, and that those zones are expanding quite a bit and have shown to be really, really, the thing is always the enforcement. The laws are there, they are in place, and they are good. But having the people really enforce them without accepting bribes, without accepting all that, that's where we struggle. And that goes beyond fishing, as we all know. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Yeah. Yes, lady in the green dress.
Okay. When you're feeding them, how do you know which one you fed and how much they did it?
No, I'm so glad.
How come they don't eat the other fishes that are
Those are, so I love that question. We get it very often at the aquarium, is how do I know all of the sharks have eaten? And also, what about the fish in the tank? Aren't they eaten? So how do I know? I know each of them individually. So they're my children. I know who's who. Every feed we GoPro record. So we sit by the main window and we've got a GoPro stuck to the window, and that films the entire feed. And then afterwards, I go back and look at that, and then I know I can identify who's who, and I've got a little checklist. So I know Blue's eaten 3 today, Vel's only had 1, Jane hasn't eaten in a few weeks. Is she okay? So that's one of the key things, is to looking into their health. If a shark hasn't eaten for a good while, which is not entirely unusual, I might add, but so that is thoroughly kept in check. And as for fish getting eaten in the tank, because we keep them well fed, it's usually not a problem, but it does happen. Every now and then, a shark will, given the opportunity, grab a fish. And when this happens most often is when there is load shedding. When the tank goes into complete darkness, they use that to their advantage. And then I come in the next morning and I'm like, got 3 fish missing. So it does happen, but it's not great and not ideal for the fish. But what it does show us is, again, that instinct still exists, and that's a good thing. Okay, we'll start in the front again.
The story about the orcas and the great whites.
I could talk here all day. How much time do you have? Yes, the great white orca saga. That's quite a thing. So I was privileged to witness. So the orcas are port and starboard. They are 2 shark specialist hunting orcas. So orcas are incredible animals, is that they're the top of the food chain, above everybody. And when you're top of the food chain, you can be picky about what you eat. So certain pods hunt certain things. We used to have a pod of 5 orcas that would come into False Bay and target the dolphins. So the great whites would still be around, hang around happily, because it wasn't an issue for them because these orcas wanted dolphin. But then in 2015, we got our first visit from port and starboard, which is 2 orcas, both with flopped over dorsal fins, one to the right, one to the left, hence the names port and starboard. And they like shark liver specifically. So we got reports of some of these 7-gill sharks. There's a beautiful site, Miller's Point, just south of Simonstown, where they used to hang around in the kelp forest. I mean, in summer, in massive numbers, you would do a free dive there and have 30, 40 of them around. And they're not small sharks. I mean, these 7-gill sharks can get to 3.5 meters. It's not a small animal. And we were getting reports from divers. It was a very popular dive spot that they were finding dead 7-gills. No live ones, only dead. And so they called our research team to come and investigate, because at the time I was studying them. And we managed to put together 4 carcasses. And when we did the full autopsies on these carcasses, shark perfectly intact, liver missing. And as I told you, a liver is a big part of the shark. And the key giveaway was that on their pectoral fins were orca tooth imprints, so like puncture marks. So the idea is that the 2 of them, one holds the one fin, one holds the other fin, they pull. It's something out of a horror movie. So I'm going to change your perspective on orca today, not for the better. And they take the liver out, and that's all they eat. Everything else they leave. And as we had brought a carcass up from our dive, and as we got on the boat, the colleague Dave that was diving with me, he said, "Whale." I was like, "Oh, a whale." But an orca came swimming straight under our boat. It was starboard. This came straight under our boat. This was before we knew anything. So I was actually hands-on experienced that. And that was with the 7-gills in 2015. Then later on, there was False Bay. And later on in Gansbaai, there were reports of the great whites. And since then, we've had very, very low numbers of great whites in our waters. And it's there's still a lot of, amongst researchers, arguments as to why are the orcas coming here now? Why, it's beautiful as they are to see. I'd be quite happy if they leave.
Don't they attack even the whale?
So again, it depends on the pod. So there are pods in places overseas that only eat whale tongue. Yeah, they're fascinating animals, and they are just intelligent like we can't even begin to understand. But I'd welcome the dolphin eaters back any day at this point. The others would leave. Yeah, but that's nature. Again, just like we don't like seeing the turtle getting taken by the tiger shark, the shark also going to get taken by 1 or 2 sea pandas. Okay, so the lady over there. Okay, I think the lady over there, and then just behind you over here. Oh, shame, sorry, I'm trying to. Okay, let's do these 2 last. Okay.
When you want to tag a shark, how do you approach it?
Very good question. So tagging, it depends very much on the species. So with the 7-gill sharks, we have professional anglers, professional fishermen that help us. So we use what we call a circle hook. So it doesn't have that nasty hook that rips into their flesh that you can't get out. It's a little bit more user-friendly. And then we bring them onto, and then as soon as you turn them upside down, they go into a bit of a sleep-like state. You may have heard of it. It's called tonic immobility. And then by turning them upside down, there we can, so that's by actually fishing for them. With the great whites, you're not going to fish for a great white. It's going to pull you back over into the water. So with them, we generally do external tags where we have a modified spearfishing gun where you have the tag on the end of the gun. And then for those of you who have been shark cage diving, you have a bait line that goes out to lure the shark in. So you use the bait, and as the shark's following the bait, you have a person with the modified spear gun that jabs the tag in on the thick flesh next to its fin. Yeah, I know it doesn't sound really nice when you say it, but Look at what they do to each other when they're mating. And again, on that, an interesting thing, and as a group of ladies would appreciate, many shark species, their skin, the female skin, is 3 times thicker than that of the males. I feel like that applies to us too. Okay, finally, to you.
Mind? Just relevant to you saying how long sharks have been on this earth. Are you aware that fleas have also been here tonight?
I'm not, no. Really?
There you go.
Well, that's fascinating. No, I did not know that. Not the biggest fan of a flea, but I'm sure they have a role to play. Yes. Oh, Victoria. Yes, brilliant question. So with sharks, they use their vertebra. So, you know, like growth rings in a tree, when they judge the age of a tree, they count the growth rings. So with sharks' vertebra, it's the same. So they actually got like a special dye that they put into that. And then you can see based on the rings, you can count how many. So they found a fossilized one that they identified as a Greenland shark and found that and compared it to ones that they know are younger and found that they live for that long. Yeah. Pleasure. Okay, I do.
Just to defend myself, when I was swimming naked, it was burning.
Naked. So yes, look, it would be very effective. So like what we do with the sharks with that black stick, we generally just give them a gentle nudge on the nose. That sensory system is so sensitive. It's like me like flicking you on the nipple, you know, like it's not great. I suppose if I can put it into perspective. So if you did have to give them a hard punch on the nose or the eyes or anything uncomfortable like that, it would help you. Oh, I think I pushed something.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Leigh, for sharing your expertise and your humor and everything with us. I can say, I think that everyone has really enjoyed this talk, and we're very appreciative of you spending your time with us. So thank you all again for joining us for our first live meeting in what has been quite a bit of time. It's wonderful to see everyone. Thank you for your donations towards Philanthropy, towards the Red Hat ladies for all their help in assisting, everyone who helped with check-in, like Xenia, and with membership. We appreciate all of the work you do. So wonderful to see you again. I hope to see you and the bookstall sellers. Yes, of course. They've done a wonderful job. Thank you for donating books and for buying books. Again, it goes towards our philanthropic efforts. So thank you to everyone. I hope to see you at the AGM on Thursday, the 21st. And I really hope to see you at our year-end party on November the 11th here at Kelvin Grove. Take care. The meeting is closed.